It's late Friday night. You're sitting at your desk with a steaming cup of tea, and you couldn't be happier. It's been a hard week, but now you have some time just for yourself. So, you decide this is the right evening to finish your novel. It's your dream, and tonight, there are no excuses. Until your telephone rings. You quickly turn in that direction. The beautiful isle of inspiration immediately drowns. You don't know who it is, but something is just making you anxious. The telephone keeps ringing. You feel that you can't decline that call. You decide to pick up the phone, and nothing could go worse. It's your boss. He's calling because he needs some super important work that will bring a lot of value to the company. It needs to be done ASAP. Your worries are real. You try to disguise your discomfort. "Can I count on you?" he asks. You tell yourself this is okay. He's your boss after all, and you know that you have to smile and sound happy to hear him. "Yes, John, you can count on me." The call ends. You still have your phone in your hand. You realize that something simply isn't right with your life. Same problems, same old story. Is this the life you expected? You sit at your desk and you're about to work on the new big project of John's company. But this question is stuck in your head. You see the empty page and the steaming tea waiting for you. You have enough. It's just jogging something loose in your mind. Without even thinking about it, you grab your phone, you digit the number. John answers. You tell him that you've had enough. You say you don't want to work on his projects anymore. You're sick of him and you want your life back. You also say a lot of other things that I can't say, otherwise the video will be demonetized. Anyway, you wait for a reply from John. After a long silence, he seems happy. What's going on? He says it was a test, and he's really proud of how you reacted. Really, you ask? Of course not. You're fired. And that's it. It's a Friday evening and you've just lost your job. What to do now? You've traded your time to do things for other people, over and over again. This is something that Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, would have called the rat race. It's a never-ending cycle of earning money and spending them in order to keep making money. You end up stuck in a loop and never truly do what you want to do in life. So, what's the solution? Well, losing your job is not the best point to start, but no worries, we're here to fix that. Because in today's video, we'll look at how much money you need to invest and live off of interest to stop working for the rest of your life. Stick around to discover more. Now, if you've been getting value from this video, pause this video right now. Hit the like button and go ahead and click subscribe. That way you'll be notified of all of our inspirational videos just like this one. Done? Great. Let's continue. You've just lost your job. What's the most reasonable thing to do? Searching on the net, of course. After a long research and cups of tea consumed, your computer goes on fire. No, literally. You find out something called F.i.r.e. on YouTube. Videos, blogs, forums, and websites talk about this, but what is it? F.i.r.e. stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. This movement is based on the concept that if you save enough money, live a frugal life and cut off expenses, you'll get to a point where you have a big amount of money saved. You can invest this money in solid index funds and other low-risk investments. In the long run, this money will start working for you. After inflation and taxes, you're still able to withdraw the 4% of your portfolio every year. You can basically live off the money you've earned for the rest of your life. Yeah, you won't have to work one more single day. Really? This is called financial freedom. Although this is a highly personal concept, being financially free means that your passive incomes are more or equal to your expenses. It means living by choosing your lifestyle while responsibly managing your financials. That's a fancy way of saying managing your incomes and outcomes. The first thing to do is to calculate the expenses that you have in 1 year. It's Friday night and you've just lost your job. Of course, you have your novel to finish, but that can wait. The average person spends $70,000 a year. In this case, we're talking about a society where being in debt is the norm, and where purchasing good cars and fancy stuff to show off is considered a good thing. The mindset behind this movement is to live a frugal life, where you cut out all the unnecessary expenses. You can live with much less if you're able to do things like selling your car and buying the cheapest vehicle possible. The one that takes you from point A to point B, praying it won't stop in the middle of the road. You can also change your apartment and live in the cheapest one in the cheapest location possible. Many F.i.r.e. participants have also found other ways. Let's say they live in an apartment which costs $1,500 each month. Many will find a roommate to immediately cut half the expenses. Also, more than 35% of your first needs expenses go into the grocery store. Of course, you don't have to starve, but consider cutting those expenses and bringing them to 20%. You can buy the cheapest food possible and still find healthier and better alternatives. Your body will thank you. What's the sense in all this? There's a precise budget you have to achieve in order to use this strategy. Saving as much money as possible and cutting expenses is the quickest way to achieve this benchmark. So let's say you won't need $70,000 a year. You realize that you can live a nice life with $40,000 per year. Now, multiply this number by 30, and you'll obtain a rough idea for what you'll need to save. For an annual expense of $40,000, you'll need $1.2 million. Of course, this is a high number. It's something that the average person gets in decades. Here's the thing. If you can lower your annual expenses to $35,000, you'll need $1,050 million. If you lower them to $30,000, you'll need $900,000. For $20,000 a year, you'll need $600,000 and so on. The idea here is that for every $100 that you spend more each month, it creates an additional requirement of $36,000 to be collected on your final amount. You may think this is an impossible number to obtain, and maybe you're thinking it's impossible to lower your annual expenses that much. Well, do you know the story of Jose Mujica? He's an elderly man living in a rural farm in Uruguay. He lives there with his wife and his best friend Manuela, a three-legged dog. He likes spending time in his garden and fixing old tractors. Jose lives with less than $1,000 a month. That makes around $10,000 a year. Nothing new, right? Billions of people live with less. What you may not know is that from 2010 to 2015, Jose has been the president of Uruguay. Yeah, the president of that nation. He was known as the poorest president in the world. He refused to live in the presidential palace. He preferred to spend his life in his farm, with his wife and his dog Manuela. "I am not the poor president," he said. "Poor people are those who don't have enough of anything. They fall in a never-ending circle. I'm not poor because I chose this life." Okay, maybe it is possible to lower your expenses as little as possible and still be happy and have a decent life. But what do you do once you've worked hard and you've reached that amount? The strategy is to passively invest in the stock market. Those low-risk investments will ensure passive earnings by the interests. You may want to invest in the stock market and choose companies with high dividends. Dividends are something investors are in love with. When profitable companies decide they don't want to invest their money to keep growing their businesses, they can decide to share a part of that profit with the investors that bought their stocks. Why do they do that? Well, this is very attractive for many investors. More investors means more money for that company. Giving money to investors is also seen as a sign of strength, so the price of the company's stock appreciates over time. Once the company pays you, you can choose to reinvest those dividends to buy other stocks of that company. This is known as the DRIP reinvestment plan. Let's go over an example. Imagine you've saved enough money. You're now ready to invest them in the stock market and living off of passive interests. As part of your investment portfolio, you buy 100 stocks, each one with a value of $100. That makes an investment of $10,000. The company pays you $10 for each stock every year in dividends. In the first year, your dividends make you earn $1,000. At the current price, with $1,000, you can buy 10 more stocks. So now, in your portfolio, you have 110 stocks. Moving forward, next year, you'll get $1,100 in dividends, paid by the company. Then, you repeat the same next year. Can you see the trend? The thing is that you can use that money to buy more shares. More shares equal to more dividends, and so on. This is known as the snowball effect. As years pass, the snowball keeps rolling down the mountain. The bigger it gets, the more snow it will collect. For your investment strategy, we've said that you can withdraw 4% from your portfolio each year to have enough money to cover your expenses. If you want to use a dividend strategy, you'll have to withdraw a little less, because the more money you take from the snowball, the less money it will create. Many F.i.r.e. succeeders say that sometimes they can live 1 year even with less than 4% withdrawing from the portfolio and still live a decent life. Another strategy is investing in index funds. Index funds are basically a way to have a diversified exposure to the stock market. These are funds that replicate the trend of the major markets, like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and all the other guys. An index fund contains all the shares of these major markets, but they're a lot cheaper and safer to invest in. They were one of Warren Buffett's favorite investments, and they made him rich. Many people think being financially independent is like winning the lottery. You take the money and you don't think about them for the rest of your life. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work like this. Think of your life as a walk on a treadmill. If you want to take a break and you stop, you'll retreat because the treadmill doesn't stop for you. For the same concept, if you give money a break, they'll be left behind. Things like expenses and inflation will consume your lucky pile, and in a little while, you'll be at the starting point once again. Of course, money isn't everything in life. It's a tool we can master and use at our advantage. This is a practical way to exit the rat race, and just like Robert Kiyosaki would say, it's not about working for money. It's about finding ways to make money work for you. Well, folks, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.